Here's your 2 minute warning. I mean, 2 minutes. Okay.
Mike asked me how to find it, so maybe he is.
It is a pretty hot agenda this evening. I mean, we got a business license and, to try one out on. Yeah, I like it. I'll probably sit up taller and not. We're good?
Okay, well, we wish to welcome all the councilmen here for our city council meeting for Thursday, April 2nd, 2020. And we welcome all of you who are part of Hooper City that might be tuning in on this live stream. We appreciate all those who have helped to put this together so that we can share with all the citizens our council meeting tonight. So to begin with, we'll just start with a work session. And the first thing maybe we could discuss, or at least let all the councilmen know that we've been approved to open our general plan. And we originally had asked for about $10,000 and hoped that we would get a grant that would be somewhat 4 times that in order to take care of our general plan. But since that time, we've had an offer from the Wasatch Front Regional Council that I believe they are willing to help us with this general plan and just lead us right through it. And Shauna, you can help me with any of the particulars on that, but they're going to help us with this general plan, and I believe it'll only cost us around $1,000. Is that right?
It's like a government agency. They'll just help us make sure we're compliant with what the state's requiring.
We're fortunate.
Yes, we really are.
This is a really good thing. It is.
This was the grant we applied for anyway to get funding. Our match was extremely small, and I think they realized that we're a rural city with limited resources. And so the fact that they were willing to consider our project as something that they would take on is going to end up actually saving the city quite a bit of money.
Any questions on that? We'll just plan on that here in a few months. How long do we anticipate it will be open? Well, I think that's something that we'll have to decide. Yeah.
So the mayor is just pretty much asking everybody if they're okay with us allowing them to run this project for us in conjunction with the city and staff. And then we will get a timeline detailed out and bring that up for discussion again.
So we're probably looking like the first part of next year.
Most likely, because it is, in all honesty, anywhere between a 6 to a 12, it could be 6 to 8 month process, yeah.
That all depends on the current status of how things go locally and nationally too with the virus.
Yeah, we've gone in 2 weeks.
We really hope we can get to the point to where we have our citizens be able to attend workshops and things like that rather than have to do it with a live stream like we are tonight. That wouldn't be near as effective or near as colorful as when we have all the citizens come in and have an opinion on how they want the direction. The other thing we wanted to just bring up for discussion, you have a map, an aerial photo in front of you, and this has to do with a request that we've had for a rezone that's out by Ross's. There's a developer that's interested in having that organic property rezoned from 1 acre to ½ acre. Now, currently, it's not part of the general plan to be ½ acre lots because there's no sewer available. And so I just wanted to get the feelings of the council to see how you felt about that. What we would be doing then is we would be reopen the general plan and then, you know, bring it to the planning commission, and they would decide whether they would recommend a rezone of that, and then turn around and close the general plan right behind it. And so I just wanted to see how the council felt about that, mainly because if you don't feel very positive about that, since maybe because we're going to open the general plan anyway, that we would just wait until that time, or whatever your thoughts were on it. Well, they have. That's the thing. And
to open the general plan in the next coming months, that if the council felt like it was worth discussion, we could let the developer know that, you know, they're willing to have put this up for discussion, whether it's favorable or not, or denied, but then give the developer a chance to decide what they actually want to do before they pay the fee. Just as a discussion, this is not a formal.
Right. Right. That's a good point. There's not a decision that's to be made. If we had a feel for how you felt about it, we could take it back to the developer and maybe.
Did it for Ross and Ranch.
But that had extenuating circumstances.
Right, they built the lift station.
They committed to build a lift
Yeah.
station. So I don't think this even comparable to this one because, like I say, it was extenuating circumstances. I'll say right now, I'm against it because I think we're too close to opening the general plan. And
Close enough that, I guess I just go back to the Harvey family when they came in, and we told them flat out no. We didn't give them a preliminary, hey, let's see how the water is.
Yeah.
We took their $500, they came, we said no without a discussion, we're done. I think that you gotta follow through. I don't remember the Ross discussion I had prior to.
I thought we hadn't opened it at all. It was but I'm just saying, I'm really against opening up the general plan because number one, there's two things. One of them is, unless there's some reason why they need this in the next 6 months, before that, just wait for the general plan to open up, and then you can discuss at that point. The other thing is, I still think that we don't want to be opening up the general plan because then others can come and say, well, you did it for them, you know. Well, you set a precedence, and I don't think we want to open ourselves up for any litigation at all, or even people saying, well, you did it for them, and them, and them, and them, and why, what's not for us. So that's why that might be.
Rawsons have committed to this lift station. Whether they follow through with it or not is a whole nother story. But this developer would piggyback off that lift station, and they're not, I don't know if they've committed to doing anything to help that cause or not. If not, I would say absolutely not, you know?
Right today, there's not even a building permit for that lift station that's been issued. There's no question, it's a ways off, but I don't know whether this developer has committed with Rawson's to help them with their development. I don't know that.
Because if that lift station wasn't part of, it wasn't a plan at all for that lift station, then the answer would be easy. There's no capacity. Yeah.
Right. Right.
So I think, my 2 cents is more.
I would vote differently, just because, but it doesn't, my vote doesn't matter, because I would be a conflict on this one. But just from my perspective, is, the Rawson Ranch lift station was designed to take the sewer from this. It was part of the capacity of the size of the pumps they had to build. So if I was to be able to vote on this, I would vote yes, because we did it for Rawson's.
One house at a time, you know, and then on 5100, they're trying to create revenue to even build the next phase of this, the first phase of the subdivision. You know, and they're not even there yet. I mean,
But the question
They're-
would be in the next 6 months before we open the plan, would there even be a lift station?
right,
Yeah.
right.
The reality is
That's
most
the,
likely
that's
not.
the,
Rally, no, yeah.
Well, and that's a good point, too. There won't be any, there won't be any half-acre lots, homes built. You know, there won't be any building permits on half-acre lots until that lift station is up and running.
Especially with the downturn in the economy we're gonna face in the next year or so. Who knows what's,
You know, that's what I've thought about that too.
as,
And we want to make it real clear, too, that those homes that have been approved along 5100 West, those 6 homes, will gravity feed into the Central Weber sewer line, so. All right, I think that gives us Is there anything else on the agenda that maybe you have some questions on?
nothing on the agenda, but I had one question with the cemetery project. I had a resident approach me. I know we're redoing the frontage there on 6300 with the cemetery project. And my question is, how much asphalt work's gonna be done? Because if you're driving north on 6300 and you come to the intersection of 5300 South that goes into Chris's subdivision, there's a giant pothole there that if people don't pull over, coming south and you're going north, your whole,
On the east side of the road?
on the east side.
Right before our curb return, there's where our asphalt ends, not ours, like View's asphalt ends, and where the old road is, there's a big hole right there.
So is our,
That has to be addressed one way or the other. Yeah, you're
right, and I mean, I probably don't think our improvements will go all the way to 5300 South, but as part of that project, I would think we could maybe widen that turn somehow in conjunction with our asphalt work.
Probably wouldn't be part of the cemetery project, but that's not to say that something ought to be fixed there, because the
In front of that one home, right, it's kind of,
project's really will just be more on the south half of the front.
So they put the planter boxes up front.
It might be a little further south than what you're thinking of, maybe. I don't. Okay.
Permanent fix, like this summer. Yeah. That's really bad. So if we could pass that word along to Jared, maybe, to get something done there. Thank you.
Okay, anything on the, I think all of you have the financials, if any of you have any questions on that, or we'll probably try to, to prepare our work session on that about the 30th, towards the end of the month. So if there's any of your programs that you look at the budget and you have any questions on, then we could talk about that, or between now and then, and you can kind of update us on that. But if you don't have any other questions on that, but we can talk about that anytime.
It did look like in the financials, we had a few things that said may level out, but maybe we'll start some conversation in that number.
Right.
Is that right?
I know Cindy brought up one, even with our sewer, but that's always going to run like it is, because we have an outstanding loan, and we'll never have, until that's paid off, it'll always be, as long as our yearly payments are made, we're kind of on schedule, but we'll always be behind the curve until it's paid off.
I did not, I mean, the detail was nice, but
A lot of detail, isn't it? Yeah.
I really like how they do the summary page on the first 2 pages. That's very helpful.
Like the percents, to tell you the
Mhm.
truth. It's like, oh, okay, way over, way under.
Feedback we're getting on the live stream is that the audio isn't as loud as we thought it might be. So if we could make sure we're talking more directly in the microphone, if you can, at best you can.
I feedback people.
Well, we'll get better at this with practice, right? I hope.
Well, we hope not. We hope we're
Well,
back to
sure,
normal,
right.
right?
Any other questions that you might have on the agenda? I said it will be a fairly light meeting tonight as far as the agenda items. I think everything's fairly straightforward.
This would just be like the official motion that these are the RAMP grants that we applied for, and that we were awarded these grants, and that you guys are officially approving that we use the funds for each one of these projects. And then at a later date, it will come back before you once we've actually secured and finalized each individual project.
Good thing about those is they are going to cover, those RAMP grants really are covering most of the money for those. The city itself will not have to contribute a whole lot. In fact, most of our contribution will just be work from our own employees. So it's going to work out really well. But
Out this way?
yeah, they'll be out this way, and the Bowery will probably be out this way. That's something we still need to discuss at some point, so that we can decide where they will be. But along with the motion on that, I would ask that you allow the mayor to actually approve any additional funds that might be needed. Let's just say we needed $200 worth of gravel for the restrooms. That as long as that is within the budget amount that we've already approved, that I could have that discretion to go ahead and approve that without having to bring it back to the council.
So we
So-
wouldn't have to name an amount, we just have to say as
Yeah,
long
just-
as it was within the budget.
That's something you can think about that would be helpful.
Is there any discussion that we need to have in regards to where we're at? And I really appreciate the updates on Facebook and the city page as well. It's been good with dealing with the coronavirus as far as what we're doing with our parks, what we're doing with our city.
Yes.
Do we have an formal statement made by Hooper City, or are we good just following the state health department and?
Well, I don't know if all of you were able to tune in on the Weber Morgan Health Department, their order that they made today at 12:30, but it does tighten things up a little bit. When it comes to parks, they'll allow, as far as having 10 people in here, the only time there can be people that are together is if they're all members of the same family, unless they're out in the park and they're 6 feet or more apart from each other. As far as the playground equipment, we'll be putting tape around those tomorrow, so they'll be off limits. Right. There's a whole list of things, and I'll be happy to give all of you copies of this. But as far as the city building, it says all county residents, businesses, community, and government organizations must do their respective parts to cease all non-essential travel, business, and social interactions during this time. So really, the office itself will be closed, but there will be people that are here that can answer telephones or questions if people want to call in, if there's any concerns they have, if there's an emergency they have, or really just any question they have. There'll always be someone here to answer the phone. But they also define what essential activities are.
Did they issue a shelter-in-place order then?
It's not a shelter in place. They made it, they specifically said it's
Right
not
on the
that.
outside edge of that, but nobody will.
We're on the outside edge of that. But, so they talk about essential activities, and they say essential activities or tasks are those deemed necessary for the health, safety, and well-being of an individual, family, household members, or pets. Leaving home for essential activities is permitted if social distancing and hygiene standards are followed. These activities may include obtaining medical supplies, medication, seeking emergency services, visiting a health care or behavioral health care professional. So really, they are really asking us to stay safe by staying home as much as we can. So I think here in Hooper City, we're doing that the very best we can. And we have someone that really oversees our making sure we're disinfected really well. And we appreciate Shauna for doing that.
We've been taking it really seriously, and every day we are invited in part of a question and answer session with the Lieutenant Governor and the Governor. And they kind of run down the same things that you hear in the daily briefings that he issues just later in the afternoon. And they try to keep us, they try to give us a little bit of information right before they go live with that information, just so we can respond to questions that the citizens might have, or we can respond how the governor is asking us to respond. And so we've just been trying to share that information, trying to let the citizens know what the state is asking and what they mean by the new kind of rules that they're temporarily putting in place. So we do that. It changes so fast, and it changes every day. So we try our best to keep everyone updated the best that we can. We've had signs down at the park that reflected what the last week's kind of guidelines were, and with the changes in the guidelines today, there are more precautions being put into place to do that.
Tomorrow, I don't know that we'll have a fence up, but we'll have warning tape all the way around the playground equipment. I guess what we would ask is if for some reason it doesn't look like it is, then we'll have to change. We hope that'll be adequate. You know, if we put warning tape up, that people will really understand that they're not to be on the equipment. I'd like to think that will be good. I've kind of driven around and looked at the parks after we've put up the signs, and I really haven't seen anybody out on the playground equipment, because there's signs on the playground equipment today telling them that they're not disinfected. It's kind of a play on it at your own risk kind of thing, but encouraging them to stay away from it. But as tomorrow, we'll actually put the tape up, and hopefully that will work. Okay, 7 o'clock straight up. Well, we'll now start our Hooper City Council meeting for Thursday, April 2nd, 2020. And again, we appreciate all of you being here, and we welcome all those who might have just tuned in on the live stream, the citizens of Hooper. This will probably be the new norm for the next little while anyway, but we'll try to use this way of letting all of you know what we're doing and what's going on in the city. To begin with, we've asked Councilman Cave if he would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then after that, Councilman Paulson will lead us in a reverence.
Our dear kind Heavenly Father, we gather before Thee this evening as a leadership of Hooper City and ask, Father, for Thy blessing upon our city and its citizens, upon our state and upon our country, and upon the whole world as we face this challenging time, this historic time as this virus has affected so many. We ask for Thy blessing and for Thy comfort to strengthen our citizens, to comfort those that are going through trying times, to watch over us and to bless those that are leading us, to bless those that are working as medical professionals, that they might be able to come up with a solution for this disease. We're grateful that we have a chance to live in such a great place and ask for Thy hand and blessing over it. Bless us as leaders of this town that we might make decisions appropriate for our citizens, that we might do so with wisdom and take the time to understand those things and how they might affect our citizenship. We're grateful for the water and the weather that we've had, and ask Thee to continue to bless the farmers of our town as they prepare to plant crops and prepare to provide for many. We're grateful for the blessings we do have, Father, and ask Thee to be with us today, and we pray for these things in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Okay, at this time, as you note on the agenda, we have a new part in there where we have to, if there's any conflicts of interest that any members of the council have with anything on the agenda, we would have to disclose them at this time. So, do we have any conflicts of interest on the agenda? I think that's a solid no from all of you, right? Okay. All right. First thing on the agenda then is our council meeting minutes from March the 5th, 2020. We've all had a chance to review those. Any questions? Okay, did I just back away from it? Okay. I don't know, sometimes people tune me out like that. Yes. Anyway, if you've had a chance to read over the minutes, do any of you have any amendments or corrections that need to be made there? And if not, we'd entertain a motion to approve those.
I'll make a motion that we approve the city council meeting minutes from March 5th, 2020.
Second.
Aye.
Okay, each of you have, was given to you a report from February financials for fiscal year 2019 up through February of 2020. We've talked about those somewhat. Do any of you have any questions, or this isn't necessarily something that takes any action, but if you had any questions on them about those financials, we could discuss it here. Like we mentioned a little bit in our work meeting, if you'll just review your parts of that, what's on that financial form, and then if you, between now and the end of the month, if you'll just come with any changes that we need to make or adjustments, then it can be discussed then. Any comments on those?
I just had one comment, because under Tomato Days, it talks about sponsors begin paying starting in January for the 2020 Tomato Days. And so obviously with the world events the way they are sponsors continuing to pay into that fund, and at what point would we make a decision to go ahead with Tomato Days or not, so sponsors do not have to pay this year?
There have been a few that have already made their contribution for Hooper Tomato Days. That's a good question. I really think I don't have an answer. I just don't know how long this virus will have the effect on us like it is. But really, right to date, we're hoping that by the time that rolls around, that we'll be able to have the Tomato Days.
I mean, I would think by, what, June, we would have to make a decision to go
I would
ahead or not?
Well, and I think by then we should know what's.
I would think so. Yeah.
That's a good question, and I hope things work out. It's kind of like with Easter. You know, we've already purchased everything for the Easter hunt that we have, but it's just going to be a question whether we'll probably have something. It may not be called the Easter hunt, but there might be something that we have because we've already purchased everything for that activity. So hopefully things will fall into place, and I feel that and hope that the Hooper citizens will just recognize where we are on things. I hope they're all talking to you about it so that we can it'll help us make good decisions to know what to do with those types of events. So, any other thoughts or on the? Okay. Well, that's good to hear. You know, Shauna, one thing I'll ask you, were there any citizens' comments that came in at all for this meeting? Is that something we need to?
Oh, no. So it was posted online in the public notice website that any citizens, because of the nature of the situation, that there wouldn't be any public allowed in this meeting. But if they wanted to make any kind of comment, they are free to email that to the city or mail it or call in, and I would relay that information. And at this time, we haven't had any response.
Okay, next on the agenda then, when we actually start our city business, we have to have a discussion on our Hooper City electronic meeting rule. And I believe all of you have a copy of that, and wondered if you have any questions about that. I believe everything we're doing this evening follows the rules that have been put in place for it. I believe we're in compliance with the laws that require us to have an open and public meeting, even though the state did relax those a little bit as far as people not being able to be in the building in different parts of it. And so I believe at this time, if you've had a chance to read over those, and if everything looks okay and we're in accordance with those, then we would have a motion to approve the electronic meeting that we're having.
Come from like, is this like from the state?
Yeah, so what this does is, because of the pace in which we needed to enact this type of rule in order to legally continue with the structure of city government, Brandon has worked with other city attorneys in the state for an electronic meeting compliance rule. So right now it is a rule that we're approving today with our first electronic meeting, but you will see this again in ordinance form as soon as we can more formally finalize it, and we have the time to do that.
So I just had a question. Under quorum member participation, it says a quorum is not required to be present at the anchor location. So does that mean that we can have this meeting with all of us off-site?
Yeah, so as we, as a rural community, we have a lot of hurdles that we have to address in order to do that. So we've had a wonderful citizen of Hooper, Bill Francis. He's offered to help us with this, and he's helping us with the IT and electronic part of it. But unfortunately, we do not have the internet speed or the capability to be doing a fully virtual meeting at this time. So I'm working with CenturyLink to try to move up on their priority list to finish the installation of our system. But we're just kind of at a waiting list with everybody else that needs urgent services. So right now, the best way we thought we could still conduct city business in accordance with Utah law is to stream it with everybody here. But that changes daily, and we are trying to come up with solutions that would allow all of our council and commission members to feel safe if they needed to be at home and still have a quorum.
So to be continued.
To be continued, yeah.
We're doing the best we can with what we got, in other words. Okay, thank you.
So if it comes in ordinance form later, what do we approve now? Just that,
Just the rule, just the rule, yeah.
I'll make a motion that we accept the Hooper City rules for electronic meeting with compliance with equipment and public meetings act enacted today.
Go ahead, Cindy.
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that is unanimous. Okay, next on the agenda, we have the application for a commercial business license from Dark Cloud Diesel Performance. This will be at 5551 West, 5500 South. And the applicant is Ashton Dayton. And this business license is for mechanical type work, diesel engine performance work. It is. Right. Yep, that's,
Didn't we already, we already.
Yeah, so yes, it is currently an operating business now. It is changing ownership. So this is the official change of ownership for that business owner.
Is, there's no one here, so maybe I'm not answering. Is there a substantial change to the traffic that'll be there versus what?
I don't think so. I think it's just changing ownership, yeah. Same business, and I believe that they might have been like involved in the business already. It's just official change of ownership.
Are we having the discussion right now? Is that what we're doing? Okay. So did the previous ownership, I know they sell trucks there, but did the previous ownership have under their duties, or not duties, but ramifications, repairing diesel trucks, or was that just sales?
Repair.
Repair also?
Yeah, so it was just repair and automotive maintenance of commercial type vehicles and diesel.
Well, and I'll tell you my concern. When I saw this application, my concern was repairing diesel trucks. And as most of you know, something that falls under the repair of diesel trucks could be performance enhancing diesel trucks. So they fall under the title of coal roller and blow black smoke everywhere. And so if that's what they're doing here, then I very strongly oppose this business application. So, I mean, I wish the owner was here so I could ask questions about it, and I'm almost under the impression to table this because I'd really like to know what kind of repair they're doing in this facility. I mean, if they're performance enhancing in Hooper City, then I don't think I want any part of it because we're decreasing air quality, air pollution, that kind of thing. But, I mean, if they're just simply repairing vehicles that are diesels, that's great, but I would like to have, as part of the motion.
Yeah, we could make it a motion that their application is to repair diesel trucks, not modify.
Absolutely.
So I think if we did that, then we wouldn't have to table it.
And if they modified
Yeah, and if they want to change their license, they have to come back.
or revoke the license, if that's the type of business they're in.
Right. We could do either way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just with the state mandates now, it's pretty hard for them to have even a modification business. So, especially in Weber County, Davis County, I mean, very few places can you have, even drive a modified.
Right.
What's unfortunate is both Weber and Davis County have websites that you can report an offender. And if you drive one day in Weber or Davis County, you can see them all over the place. So whether they're doing it on their own or having businesses do it for them, they're still doing it. And so,
Yeah, but it's just a chip. They've just, they just program, so they just put
yeah,
the chip.
it's chip
They
in
can
hand.
go through and get it inspected, get the emissions done on it.
Put the chip back in.
Exactly. Or
Right.
push a button and it's not on that chip, so, I mean, but I would agree.
I would just hate to endorse a business that does that to our environment.
Yeah, and I just think if we specify that in the motion, I feel comfortable if we specify it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Are we ready to entertain a motion if, with conditions?
Yeah, Ryan?
Do it, Ryan?
Chris brought it up.
I'm okay with it.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the business license application for Dark Cloud Diesel Performance with the stipulation that they follow their application, which states that they will only repair diesel trucks and not provide modifications to performance.
Enhancement.
Performance enhancements, yes.
Well, that's why I had that question, because the name implies that that's what they do. Dark cloud. Right?
100%, yeah.
Well, so we have this
I'll second that motion.
from council. I was going to ask if there's any discussion, so then you could bring up the dark cloud part, but you already worked that in, so. Okay, so then we have a second?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes.
Right?
Just didn't put the two and two
It
together.
didn't go till you said it.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have discussion and approval of our 2020 ramp grants that we've received. What we're actually seeking here tonight in this council is a motion to approve and kind of execute these following contracts so that we accept these ramp grants and we make them part of our budget, and they are specifically to be spent on what the grants have been received for. So I'll just review those. We received a ramp grant in the amount of $35,300 for a Bowery, and that will be located at this park here, the North Park. We also received a ramp grant for $133,183 for restrooms, again for this park. We also received a ramp grant in the amount of $42,440, and that's to approve the arena lights down at the rodeo grounds. Then we also received a ramp grant in the amount of $10,000 for Hooper Tomato Days entertainment. And so to review that, with the Bowery and the restrooms that are here, those are both, we can get those through state certified vendors, so they would not have to go out to bid. And fortunately, there's just about enough money under both of those structures, the Bowery and the restrooms, that we can, there will be very little money that comes out of our budget. And what money will be provided will be in kind. In other words, we'll have our own employees maybe do some cement work or things like that. But we're looking for that to just about cover 100% of those. The arena lights, on the other hand, will have to go out to bid. We'll have to get some other bids on that, and then the entertainment for $10,000, the ramp grant for that, Gentry will cost $12,500, so there would be $2,500 that Hooper City would have to pay towards that. Are you familiar with the singing group Gentry, Gentleman's Trio? Anyway, they're supposed to be a pretty good group. But anyway, so we would entertain a motion to approve those amounts being placed in the budget. And then, as I mentioned in the work meeting, I would ask that maybe you would allow the mayor to make some discretionary decisions on if we had to have another load of gravel or something like that that was $200, or just for example, but not to exceed any amount that you've already approved for these projects, that I could go ahead and approve those without having to bring them back to the council, as long as it was within that allowed budget amount. And of course, I'd be accountable to you, you know. Excuse me? No, the budget amounts were always a little more. For example, the Bowery, the budget amount was actually $74,600. However, all of that was in labor that are, you know, if we need to have a backhoe, for example, do some work, we already own the backhoe. And the same was true with the restrooms. The total amount was $182,000, but after we've had a bid on these restrooms, they're only going to be about $133,000 with everything. So, but there will be a little labor with the restrooms as far as electrical work or plumbing, you know, hooking up to the sewer, but we'll be able to do most of that in-house. But those types of things were all included in the total amount. So, and then, as I mentioned, on the arena lights, that includes the lights, new poles, you know, all new wiring, and I mean, they would be totally replaced from what there is now. And that total bid was $62,000, and then of course we got the $42,440. So the other $20,000 again would be in our own work, helping to install the poles and things like that. So, do you have any other questions on those? I think that's a pretty positive thing. Hopefully it won't set us
By the
back.
city staff and Sherry, I mean, you guys did a great job.
Need a motion? I'll make a motion that we authorize construction in lieu of receiving the ramp grants for 2020 for all the projects that we just discussed, including and up to the total cost of the project at the discretion of the mayor or city staff. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Well, that is, let me check here. I believe that's the last item on the agenda. Is there any other discussion the council might have? If not, we would entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh, okay.
Because I posted it.
Oh, wait, that came from her.
So, are we
But
supposed
she
to,
is.
kind of a cheer? Should we do a cheer at this
I'll
time?
second
or what?
So this is on Facebook or on YouTube?
It's on YouTube.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Okay, we have a
I'll
motion. Okay, have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
My son was supposed to come home from his deployment today. They had a 60-day extension because of the virus.
Yeah.
He's in Dubai.
Oh,
Bad a place to be, is it?
Yeah, well, except
Or
for they're
what?
in a military base in the middle of nowhere.
so he's excited to come home?
He's more than excited.
Yeah, yeah. And Mama's probably really excited to see him, probably.
Yeah, yeah. Almost as excited as me.
I went to.
Do you want us to sign it? No, just walk away.
Mayor, do you know
I'm sure it'll be,
the person that owns the property where they're trying to put that fire station in? Do you know who that is? That,
Yeah, you bet. Don't trip on that.
they want to get that going, but he's kind of being a little squirrely with them for some reason.
well, other options is